Hello, this is Blake Graham, and it is my pleasure today to be sitting here with Richard Renton. Richard, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Blake. How are you doing today?
Fantastic. Always love to spend some time with you. Richard, tell us a little bit about your background, how you got started in sports medicine.
Well, it started back I was going to college at University of Oregon, and I hurt my knee. And when I first started college, I was interested in architecture. And when I injured my knee and had surgery, I got interested in nutrition and rehabilitation on my knee. So I changed my major, and I became a physical education, nutritional, and sports medicine major. And when I completed my studies there, I transferred up to Portland State University in Portland, Oregon, and worked on postgraduate in sports medicine. So I'm a board-certified athletic trainer. I have degrees in biochemistry and nutrition. And from there, we just kept on going. I worked for teams like the Portland Trailblazers and the Portland Timbers, which is a soccer club, Portland State University as an athletic trainer, as well as University of Oregon. So I've been for 10 to 15 years active with various professional and college athletes trying to maximize their performance on the field.
What was it that got you interested in nutrition?
Well, it was just when I started to rehabilitate my knee, I started to realize that as a 20-year-old, I really wasn't immortal like most 20-year-olds think they were. And I realized that my recovery period would be faster if I just ate better and worked on getting more of the key nutrients that my body need. And that's when I started to really realize how important nutrition was as far as just the ability of my body to function on a day-to-day basis.
Now, you're a longtime friend of the Wallachs. How is it that you got involved with Dr. Wallach and his crusade?
Well, I met Steve Wallach, probably almost 22 years ago now, and we tried to have a business together that was actually an aquarium store, and we were both young and made lots of mistakes, and that didn't work. But during that period of time and thereafter, I got to meet his father on a day-to-day basis and start to learn a little bit more about his passion, and that was back in the days when he had a practice in Portland, Oregon. And in fact, he was so passionate that not only did he have a practice Monday through Friday in the city of Portland, but on weekends he would travel about 80 miles to the Oregon coast, and he had a weekend practice opening up on the weekend trying to help people. And I started to realize that he was a unique individual and that was well worth learning with. And Steve and I got more and more involved in with what Doc had as far as his message and the ideas he had about nutrition. And that's when Steve and I started to manufacture various products for him underneath his license and his specs as far as quality and the exact ingredients he were. And that was about 12 years ago, and we've been doing it every day since.
Now, you were intimately involved when Dr. Wallach started American Longevity. Tell us a little bit about that experience.
Well, actually, I was involved with Doc with a previous company that he was involved with, and then he had a falling out with that company, and he came to Steve and I basically saying, we can't let the message die. We can't not take care of all our friends that we've gotten involved with nutritional products and helping and changing their lives. How fast can we get our company up and running so that the people that have believed in the message and have seen the changes in their life, we didn't all of a sudden not have products for them. And so we worked 24 hours a day for 2 or 3 months, and we got started. So originally I helped formulate the original capsules and pills as well as the majority of the liquids. So the scientific board literally back then was Dr. Wallach, Steve Wallach, and myself, and we put together the initial 15 to 20 items that started it off.
Now, I know one of the things that Dr. Wallach's always been a real stickler on is the quality of the products. In fact, that was one of the reasons that he and this other company had a falling out, is they kept dropping the quality of the products.
Absolutely. You know, Doc's passion, his life, is changing people's lives and improving the quality of themselves and their loved ones. And when things are more important about the bottom line versus the quality of the product, he has a big problem with that. And he realized the only way that he could prevent that from happening and sowing his good name is if he started his own company. Because if he owns it lock, stock, and barrel, then he controls the quality issues day in, day out, every day for as long as he owns that company. And that's why Doc will always own it, because he will never relinquish someone else being able to put in an inferior product but still have his picture on the label. And so that's been one of his key points from day one, is that we had to have quality beyond industry standards. In other words, the FDA really doesn't come out to nutritional companies and say, you need to clean this up a little bit better, or you need to use these particular products. It's pretty much nutritional companies can do whatever they want. If there's a problem with the product, then the FDA gets involved, like with Sea Silver or some other products recently. But Dr. Wallach had this standard that because he was a veterinarian and had been working with various drug companies and whatnot, he wanted a standard of quality that was equal or higher as theirs, which is typically much higher than most nutritional companies.
What are some of the things that you do? You obviously run quality control.
Well, I work with the quality control of all the capsules and pills, as well as the manufacturing of almost all the capsules and pills. And we do that up in the Portland, Oregon area. I still live up there, even though Doc's down in San Diego. But we have a lab that we work with that has licenses actually to make drugs, but they just choose to make nutritional products. But they have all those standard operational procedures and GMPs to manufacture drugs, but they just choose not to. And it's just the relationships that we develop. I work on formulating new products that I present to the scientific board. Once the scientific board reviews the products and we figure that we have a product that's going to be beneficial to people, then I take it back and we start formulating it to make sure that it will fit in the capsules, the tablets, or the liquid that we want to do, and then from there we go into the manufacturing and testing modes. And as far as the capsules and pills, tablets, I'm in charge of that.
What are some of the things that make our products unique? Let's talk specifically about the minerals that go into our products.
Well, there's so many different minerals out there. There's literally minerals like iron oxide. Well, what is iron oxide? Well, that's a nice way of saying rust. It's just basically a metallic metal. And, we've just never been designed to eat rocks. I've never felt comfortable bending down and grabbing a rock and gnawing on it. It's not my style. And we found out through science that we really don't absorb that much of it. And if our digestive system is in extremely good shape, we might absorb somewhere between 5 and 8%, which means 92 to 95% is just going out our digestive tract. And that's not an efficient way, because I don't want to eat 500 milligrams of iron to get 10. It just doesn't make sense to do things that way. The next step up from there is that the ag business figured it out with cattle, and that is that they would attach an amino acid chelate, or a protein, to a mineral. And what happens is that when that goes into your digestive tract sees that amino acid and they go, oh, look at this. And they absorb it, and it brings it through the wall of your digestive system and goes into your blood. So the absorption level, instead of it being 5 to 8%, is up to 35 to 40%. But the disadvantage of that is that it costs a lot more to manufacture those type of minerals. But if you get a good mineral product in a tablet or a capsule or even liquids, you'll see the words amino acid chelate after all the key minerals. And then the next step up would be the plant-derived minerals. And those are minerals that originally come from a plant. See, a plant was designed to absorb minerals from a rock state, but when they do that, they attach a amino acid of their own to it, and then they make them all like charge. And that's the way our body was really designed to get minerals. I mean, they just eat fresh fruits and vegetables, and our body would just absorb the minerals right away. In fact, if your digestive system is really healthy, you can absorb up to mid-90s or that area of those type of minerals. But what we've found out over time is because the way our farming practices are is that the soil just doesn't have the mineral content that it used to. So the only insurance policy that you can get is to take a supplement that's derived from plant-derived minerals. And that's just exactly the foundation on which Dr. Wallach and the products are based on, is the plant-derived minerals.
I know you've been called Dr. Dirt by Doug Feuerbach, and he called you that because you were explaining how it is that we get these wonderful plant-derived minerals. Can you tell us just a little bit about that, Richard?
Well, sure. Utah is known as the mineral state, and down in southern Utah, there's a huge valley, and this valley was just rich in minerals. In fact, depending on where you go in the valley, it's anywhere from 77 to 70 minerals. And if we go back thousands and thousands of years, there was rich vegetation in this valley. And then it's just like, the leaves falling off the trees and whatnot. And then the next year would be another year, and the next year. And there was just this deep vegetation of rich soil and all these leaves. And it was basically a glorified compost pile. I mean, that's probably the simplest way that I can picture this. And then what happened is there was this eruption. And there was this thin layer of limestone, ash, rocks, and lava that encapsulate this compost pile. Now, if you can picture, if it was real deep, if it was 200 or 300 feet worth of this lava on top, it would create so much pressure on this compost pile, it would turn into coal. And there's lots of coal in Utah. But since this was a thin layer, it didn't do that. Plus, when the eruption occurred, it was very dry during that era of the Earth. And therefore, there wasn't enough water to fossilize that compost pile. So basically what happened is it just flattened it like a pancake, and it still remained a vegetable, vegetation and type source. And so when you go and you look at this material and you hold it in your hands, you can break it apart. You can almost count the layers of years after years after years like rings in a tree, and you could see it. And it's about 100 years an inch. And it's just real rich with vegetation. It's very, very organic type material. And what we do is that when we work with this stuff, we get what's called fulvic acid in there, or hydrophilic acid, one of those T things. And that's plant-derived minerals. And what we do is we basically make iced tea with it. We take these minerals and we grind them up. That's why I get the name Dr. Dirt, because I'm always playing in this stuff. And then we take it and we put it in purified water, not just city water. You know, there's a lot of towns that think they have really clean city water, but we just take it a next step. We actually have a water purification program that's so thorough that we can almost make saline solution. We have the packaging line. One of our facilities could make saline solution, but we choose not to. We use this super clean water, and we put this folic acid, this humic shale in the water, and then just like tea, the minerals that are in high concentration in this material leaches out into the water. And we know if we leave enough time and temperature and biometric pressure, we get this concentration of minerals in the water. And then we take all the remaining products out of it, and we have our plant-derived minerals. And it's just great.
How is it that these liquid minerals, the plant-derived minerals, differ from some of the competitors? I've seen a lot of other liquid mineral products on the market.
Well, you know, it's kind of hard to explain these to people because you really can't tell with your naked eye unless you go and you see what they make the material out of. When you see ours, you can see the vegetation that's in this humic shale. You can see the year after year after year. When you go to some of the other competitors, it looks like a piece of rock, like you would find along the side of a road that they've ground up to make it look like gravel. And yeah, you can get a percentage of minerals out there, but it's not this organic. It's not this fulvic acid type material. And to the best of my knowledge, we are the only people that get it from this one mine, and it's the richest source in all of Utah. There's other places that use things like sea salt, which is still just a crystal, or coral calcium. You might have heard of that before. Well, you know, when people talk to me about coral calcium, I ask them one general question, because just think about this for a second. Yeah, it has lots of minerals in it, very healthy for you. But if the ocean can't break it down in 30, 50, 100 years, what makes you think that your digestive system can do it in a couple of hours?
That makes sense.
But your body can break down and get minerals out of vegetation in a couple of hours, because that's the way God made you to do it.
So if the source of the minerals is much softer, if it crumbles in your hand, you're
Absolutely.
saying that the minerals that come from that are much more readily absorbed by the body than those that come from a hard rock.
Absolutely. And the other unique thing about plant-derived minerals is that if you kind of picture out there, and a lot of people think it this way, that there's a calcium molecule over here and there's a magnesium one and an iron one. Well, that's not the way it really works. They all hook together and they become these clusters, kind of like caramel corn. You get these great big balls of caramel corn. Well, if you have a great big huge ball, it can't get into the cell because it's bigger than the gaps in the cell wall to fit through. Well, one of the unique things about plant-derived minerals is that instead of this great big caramel corn type ball, they break apart and they just want to bond one or two molecules together so they can get in and out of our cells without any problems. Your body doesn't have to break them down, and that's why they're so much more effective.
And they're also water soluble.
Also water soluble.
Which increases the safety of it.
Absolutely. They don't store in your fat in your body. And so you could take our plant-derived minerals at 100 times the daily recommendation for 100 years, and you'll never see toxicity limits.
What are some of the things for our quality control that you do to make sure that we always have consistent levels of minerals in the products?
Every single batch we do these tests. It's a series of we measure how much dissolved solids are in the mineral solution, and we have certain target numbers that we hit with. And if it doesn't start out with there, they just get recycled, and we don't put them out until they get right. Then from there, we send them to a lab, and that lab does a spectral analysis and actually measures the level of each mineral. And we do that with a majority of the minerals, and we know if 30 of them are in between these parameters, then they're all going to fall in the range, because we've been doing this for years and years and years. In fact, the gentleman that does the work at the mine has been doing it for over 20 years. So he's learned the art of this and the blending of this. And then periodically we actually test all 70 minerals. It's a very expensive test, but we do that. And then in addition to that, every single batch, every single time gets tested by more than one lab, the potential for bacteria, yeast, and mold, because we just don't want those type of things in the product. And that's why, technically we don't even need to have a shelf life or an expiration date on our plant-derived minerals, because it's just minerals and water. There's nothing there to turn bad after we get done with all the testing and make sure that the water is super clean before we begin with it, and that we haven't allowed any adulteration to enter the product.
And you also keep a sample of each batch, don't you?
Retain samples. That's just good manufacturing practices. I wish all nutritional companies did that. But yes, every single batch, since day one, every single ingredient, we've kept a retained sample. And literally, if there's a problem for the first bottle of Classic that we ever made, we actually have every single raw ingredient, and we could actually remake that bottle in a lab. And that's just good manufacturing. It's just the way we do business.
That's kind of above and beyond the standard regulations and what most people in the industry do.
Oh, absolutely. Most people do keep retained samples, but most of them only keep it for maybe 1, maybe 2 years, and then because it takes up too much space, they just throw it away. We never throw away our retained samples because we want to do continued research on it to improve our quality of manufacturing so that the end product is a higher level above everybody else. And that's just one of Dr. Wallach's goals, is it has to be a quality product that shows results.
Has the company ever refused or returned batches of minerals that didn't meet their quality?
Oh, absolutely.
Their standard of quality?
It typically happens if we work with a new vendor, but once they get used to us and know that we do these independent lab studies outside of their control and that our agreement doesn't meet our specs, they get it back. They kind of learn really quickly. Yes, we have returned batches, in which I guess they sell them to somebody else, but it's definitely not sold with a Youngevity label on it. But once they realize we do these independent checks, they seldom ever send us something that doesn't meet our standards.
Well, after we have these incredible minerals that are unique, and I think one of the things that also makes Youngevity products unique is that they guarantee the amount of minerals, not just saying there are minerals in there, but actually a guaranteed amount of minerals.
If you start comparing us to our competitors, there's a couple things that I'll challenge you to take a look at on their bottle. A, do they state which minerals are in there? Do they tell you how much total minerals are in each bottle? Do they tell you what the source that it came from? Did it come from plant-derived, or do they even bother to say that? We tell you everything that's in that bottle, and there's only so much room on the label, so we actually have a website that gives you more information. We feel that you have a right to make a wise decision, and therefore we're going to give you as much information as you want. And we challenge our competitors to do the same, because I can tell you, just in my experience and being around nutritional products for 12 plus years, we give our consumers more information on how we make the products than anybody else out there.
Tell us what we do with the minerals after you've got these plant-derived minerals. How do you take them from there and make a product like the Classic?
Well, the Classics is one of my favorite products. It's probably the most complete nutritional product in the United States, if not the world. So we take this concentration of plant-derived minerals and we take it into a lab-type facility they're licensed to make pharmaceutical drugs. They just choose not to. And then from there, we fortified it with more minerals, more of those amino acid chelated minerals, and we add vitamins vitamins and we add antioxidants and phytonutrients in large batches of 3,000 gallons. And then we actually have a multi-style method in blending them together. If you kind of picture, we have two stainless steel drums side by side, and we pump them back and forth between the two like a martini shaker or someone that's drinking, and they pour it into two pitchers together. The other thing we do is we have these hydro stirring devices in each drum that spins it up as well. Once we add all the ingredients into the product, we then seal those containers as we continue mixing them so that there's no dust, no particles, no bird droppings that I find in other people's products. You know, when you talk about when you go and you read Department of Ag, they actually have ratings for food on how many rat droppings are allowed to be in products. I mean, they don't say no rat droppings. They say they have to be between this and this. Well, our attitude is none. And so we actually seal the container so there can't be adulteration, and they're no longer even exposed to air all the way through bottling. It's a total clean and sealed system, and that's minimum expectation that we have with our manufacturers. Everyone wears hair nets and masks and gloves and coats, and it's not to protect the employee from the nutritional product. It's actually to protect the nutritional product from the employee, because the most common ingredient in dust is skin, and we don't want that in our products.
And I know with Youngevity, to ensure the shelf life and the contents of each individual product, that they actually put in more than what's on the label.
Yeah, products over a given period of time will break down slightly. Our goal is that when we say that a product's going to last a year on that 365th day, we'll even say 366 in case it's a leap year, that we know that what we say is on the label is in that bottle on the last day. There's a lot of manufacturers out there that had the philosophy that it left the manufacturing facility at that level, and if it breaks down from there on out, hey, no big deal. But we actually study, test to make sure that the product on the last day has those levels of nutrients within the product.
Richard, what is it that makes our vitamins unique? You know, we talk a lot about the minerals, but we have quite a high level of standard for the quality of our vitamins as well, don't we?
Well, purity is a big issue with vitamins. You can get a majority of vitamins that are 40% pure, 80% pure, or 100% or 99% really percent pure. No one really says 100. And on the label, they're not required to tell you the purity level. And with Doc, he insists that we have the highest and the purest products as possible. And so we actually source out the people that when we test an antioxidant for its ability to be an antioxidant, we actually measure that as far as a purity level so that we blend it. And that's why we get such good results. But the big issue is the purity of the products, the quality of the products when we blend them in with the minerals, because we're going to spend all the time and the effort to make the highest quality minerals. It just doesn't make sense to take shortcuts and put low quality vitamins in there, because the results just won't come out the same.
Is it safe to say that all of our vitamins are organic?
Well, I wouldn't say organic, because what organic really means is that it's grown or it's in an environment that there's no herbicides or pesticides in the product. And yes, that's a true statement, but that's not the issue that we're looking at. We're looking at how pure a vitamin C is the vitamin C. How pure is the beta carotene for vitamin A? Is there any other artificial chemicals attached to it that we don't want to see? That's the areas that we work at, is just to get that purity level, because that's what's going to give you the results. You know, when we put in 60 milligrams of vitamin C like there is in Classic, we want to know that the actual vitamin C is 60 milligrams. It isn't 60 milligrams of something of which only 50 of it is vitamin C, because you're not going to get the bang for the buck, so to speak. You know, if you take our product and you walk in with our bottle of Classic just by itself, and you go into the GNC and you look at ours and you say, oh, that's quite a bit for a vitamin, and you start looking into the ingredients and you actually read the whole name, that it's calcium amino acid chelate, and you go find that calcium in a GNC, and you go find the A and the E and the B and the B complex and the CoQ10 and the grapeseed extract, and then start adding the plant-derived minerals, you know, you're going to be spending over $347 just to equal what's in our bottle. So by the way we blend it and the specs that we have, we're able to give an extremely high quality product, but yet give the consumer tremendous value.
Tell us a little bit about the GDL in there. That's one thing that you didn't mention there. And I know that's hard to find, but it's something that makes our products more effective, isn't it?
Well, GDL is kind of a neat thing. if you kind of picture that we can make an extremely high quality mineral vitamin combination, but if your digestive system is not in good shape, you're just kind of wasting your money. And so one of the things that we found out is that by adding GDL to our product, it makes the bacteria in your small and large intestines healthier. And that's the bacteria that you want. The bacteria that you don't want in your digestive tract doesn't like GDL. And therefore, we're creating a healthier atmosphere in your small intestines and your colon, and it allows you to absorb nutritional products better. So what we're doing is we're feeding your digestive tract to make it healthier at the same time as putting in high quality vitamins and minerals and other nutrients at the same time to maximize the absorption.
Tell us about some of the other ingredients that we've put into our capsules. I know, like, people look at the glucogel, and it's got a great amount of gelatin in there, as well as the glucosamine sulfate. But when you look at gelatin, there's a big difference in low-quality gelatin and high-quality gelatin.
You know, I laugh when I think about all the years with Dr. Wallach, because I remember on his first tape, Dead Doctors Don't Lie, how he was telling people to dive into Kentucky Fried Chicken dumpsters and pull out the cartilage that's on the end of the chicken bones and eat that because it was a good source. And everyone was always amused. And then he always talked about Knox Gelatin. And we actually went to Knox Gelatin and we asked for their specs on their gelatin because we wanted to get an agreement, because Doc's always talked about Knox Gelatin. And we found out that Knox Gelatin, basically it's anything that walks into the slaughterhouse, they turn into gelatin. And we kind of looked at that and kind of went, that's not what really we want. And then we started to look at, do we know that the cattle had steroids? Do we know that it's ever come from England and possibly been exposed to BSE? And so there was just all these challenges. So what we did is we started to look for a high quality gelatin that was raised in an environment that is almost, as you stated earlier, an organic situation. And we found out that beef that is grown in Argentina and Brazil, they're not allowed to give their cattle steroids, and they're not allowed to give their cattle byproducts. And we could get gelatin only from the cattle. In other words, they wouldn't mix in pig if pig showed up that day, or chicken if chicken showed up that day. It was pure beef gelatin from Argentina. We then started to import it. Now, the other part about Argentina and Brazil that's unique is that they've had a ban of importing cattle for years. So there is no chance whatsoever that BSE, mad cow disease, can ever be involved with our gelatin. And so it's just those quality standards. And we've been importing gelatin longer than mad cow disease has been around, but we were always confident that our product was totally safe. We knew exactly what the source was and where it came from and the environment in which the cattle were raised in. And so we're really happy with the quality of our gelatin.
Is that one of the reasons that some people who take a competitor's products thinking they're getting the same amount that's in American Longevity products, but they don't get the same results?
Well, that's part of that purity issue again, you know, and when we have our specs that we design and we work on a purity product, typically, and we talked about gelatin, and I'm going to jump to the glucogel, which is what we use the gelatin with, is that a lot of people have taken glucosamine sulfate and they haven't seen any benefits of taking glucosamine. But when they take our glucogel, because of the blend of the different nutrients that we use in it, as well as the quality of those nutrients, they start to see massive changes. And it all has to fall back on A, the blend, and B, the quality.
What about the essential fatty acids? I know those are definitely unique.
Well, essential fatty acids is obviously a key ingredient of our diet. And omega-3 is a deficiency in the United States that probably is even greater than calcium. We just don't get enough of that. And it's been shown that omega-3 and essential fatty acids can reduce cardiovascular disease by up to 50 to 80% in the United States. And, you know, it's sad to hear about all the challenges we have in the Middle East and the number of people that have died over there, and the number keeps growing. But do you realize, Blake, that 106 people die an hour in the United States from cardiovascular disease? And if 50% of it can just be eliminated just by increasing your essential fatty acids, is that important? Is it important that we try to save 50 to 80 people an hour just by correcting their diet? And to me, the answer is a no-brainer. It's absolutely. So now we have to create an essential fatty acid product that is high quality, effective, and and simple to consume. Now, a lot of people just have you get this salad oil type bottle and you crack it open and you use it in your diet. But what they don't understand is essential fatty acids are very heat sensitive, and that if you heat it, it turns into a trans fatty acid just like corn oil does. So having it in a big jar just doesn't work because people using it like frying oil doesn't work. The other problem is that it oxidizes and breaks down. So the more it's exposed to oxygen, the worse it is. So you unscrew that jar and open up that bottle, and all of a sudden it is exposed to air and it starts disintegrating and it just breaks down. So we found that by putting it in soft gel capsules, we seal it from oxygen and increase the purity and potency of the product throughout its entire shelf life. In fact, once they squeeze the oil out of the borage or the flaxseed, it's no longer exposed in air. It's packed in nitrogen all the way through the gel cap. And so we prevent that opportunity to affect it. And then we put the product in UV protected containers so that UV sunlight doesn't get exposed to it. So we're able to provide an essential fatty acid, omega-3 or omega-6, that has a high purity level and has a great shelf life that prevents oxidation. And hopefully the whole idea is to help reduce cardiovascular disease in the United States.
Speaking of cardiovascular disease, I know we have recently been involved with an FDA health claim. Tell us a little bit about this FDA health claim.
Well, health claims are kind of unique things. You know, we talk about the United States having freedom of speech, that we can say anything we want. Well, in the nutritional world, that's not really true because the drug companies basically control the FDA, and the drug companies don't want nutritional products coming out there and saying that taking essential fatty acids can reduce cardiovascular disease because that's going to hinder their drug sales. And so it's actually against the law for us to say that unless we put in a petition with the FDA that says that EFA will help prevent cardiovascular disease and then provide enough science so that the FDA cannot say no. Now, let's give you an idea. A couple of years ago, we worked on the health claim that selenium will prevent some cancers. I think we provided over 17,000 pages of science documenting that, as well as sending in world-renowned scientists like Dr. Gerhard Schrauzer into the FDA to prove the science. And we were given that health claim that selenium will help prevent some cancers. So now we're doing it with essential fatty acid, and we even have more science behind that than we did with selenium. But the sad thing is that the FDA can drag this out for years before they give an answer, and they can come back and say, well, what about this and what about that? In fact, since 1993, I think there's only been 10 health claims accepted for all the nutritional products in the United States. And one of the things, as far as our crusade, it's so exciting, is that once we get this EFA one, which should happen shortly, or maybe by the time you actually hear this message, we might already have it, that we'll be the first company, college, organization, or society ever to get 2 health claims passed through the FDA. We're excited. There is no financial benefit to us. Every company in the world will be able to use the health claim once we get the established, but getting the message out to the consumer that essential fatty acids can help prevent cardiovascular disease is so important. We're willing to spend the thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in the research, the science, and the lawyers to get this message out to the consumer in the United States.
And getting those health claims approved actually makes a huge difference in people's health. I know with the folic acid, just the health claim that talks about using folic acid can reduce the risk of neural tube birth defects.
Birth defects. And that took over 3 years to prove that to the FDA. How many babies had these nerve defects because they just drag their feet? How many Americans are going to die from cardiovascular disease because they don't allow us to put this information out there where the consumer can realize that if they just consume a little bit of essential fatty acids in their diet, that their chance of cardiovascular disease drops? I don't understand why the government drags its feet.
I know with folic acid birth defect claim that since that claim was authorized, the number of birth defects, neural tube birth defects, dropped like 60%.
Absolutely.
Can you imagine a 60% reduction in heart disease?
And it's right there in our hands. It's right there in front of us. The science proves it without a doubt that this will exactly happen. And, you don't have to take a nutritional product to get it. If you enjoy eating fish 5 times a week, or if you like eating flaxseed and all that, but most our diets, we're just not used to that. We're more used to eating McDonald's 5 times a week than we are fish. So the simple way to do it is by getting essential fatty acids, and it's just an insurance policy. And what an inexpensive insurance policy it is.
Plus the quality there. You were speaking of fish. Just getting any kind of fish oil isn't the same, is it?
Oh, we test it. We have specs on which fish it comes from, what part of the world it comes from. Then we test it for heavy metals or herbicides or pesticides. All those specs are lined out because that's part of that purity issue where Dr. Wallach puts his foot down saying we're not going to hurt people with our products. Our goal is to save people with our products.
So it's not just Arctic fish, but it's a higher standard of Arctic fish.
It's a higher standard because of the specs on the amount of, there can't be mercury and lead in the fish, and so all that has to be tested. The purity level, we prefer cold water fish versus warm water because of the heavy metal contents. The area which it's caught, the water has to be tested to make sure that it's not polluted. And so it's basically Icelandic, Norwegian, up in those parts of the world is where we get our fish oil. Unfortunately, not the United States, because somewhere else in the world there's a better product. Same thing with the gelatin. Unfortunately, we couldn't find gelatin of those specs within the United States, so we searched the world for the highest quality product.
Richard, what can you tell us about some of the new products that Youngevity is introducing?
Well, we're always out there doing research and studying. We also have health petition claims put in there with lycopene, and I think that's one of the exciting new nutrients that's coming out recently. In fact, after we placed our health claim petition in for lycopene, there was a company that also placed one about 3 months after, but since ours was first, they were forced to marry those with, you might have heard of this company, Heinz?
Yeah, I've heard of Heinz.
Yeah, well, they were forced to join our petition because they were a little bit slow as far as how fast they got their petition made. Either that or they read ours and said, oh, we need to jump on this boat. This is a good thing. And so, those type of situations are ongoing, but my passion is in antioxidants and the research that's involved with antioxidants and the ability of a product to be able to absorb free radicals within your body. Because if we're able to absorb the majority of the pollutants and free radicals within our body, we're going to reduce the chance of cancers. And there's new research out there that's called ORIC research, oxygen radical absorption capacity, and it's enable us to take a nutritional product or a food product, expose it to free radicals, and watch how much it can absorb like a sponge. And the higher an ORIC value that a product has, the better it is to help your body fight off certain cancers. And so in the area that I work in, that's one of my hot buttons, is to find products and design products that have high ORIC values.
Now, is that ORIC value test, is that more accurate than some test, a skin test that people do to measure antioxidant levels?
Well, first of all, when we do ORIC testing, there's a couple things that are involved. A, it's the full spectrum of antioxidants, not just one like the skin test that you're referring to. If you eat a lot of carrots, just lots and lots of carrots, you'll show really good. But there's lycopene that comes from watermelons and tomatoes. Is what makes them turn red. That's really good for your vision and other parts in your prostate and other parts of your body. So there isn't just one antioxidant out there. There's hundreds of antioxidants out there. And what's neat about ORIC is it tests the value of all of them. And then the other thing that's important about it is that we have a lab that knows exactly how to do the testing, that does it every day. We have an independent lab do these testings. We don't count on people that have jobs 9 to 5 that do things on the weekend do these tests. They're actually certified lab techs. And so that we know that the scores that we get are consistent. In other words, if you went in and had an ORIC done on a food that you take in and you take it in an hour later, the answer will be the same both times. Versus this skin test, you can test one hand and test the other hand, and you might have a variance of 10%. And that's just because the people don't know how to do the testing, or the equipment isn't as good, or it's not underneath a lab-controlled environment.
Now, isn't that the same lab that the USDA uses for their testing?
Absolutely, as well as University of Connecticut, which I'm proud to say is one of the leaders in ORIC research in the United States. They all use this one lab, Brunswick. It's a high-quality lab. In fact, they're the cutting edge of new research in ORIC development.
Now, in conjunction with all this ORIC testing, Youngevity has recently come out with a new product.
Oh, we're so excited about it. You know, we've always worked with vitamins and minerals and supplements where we blend vitamins and minerals together. And what we wanted to do is find natural foods and blend natural foods together rather than fortifying them with vitamins. You know, we want to mix blueberry and strawberries and plums and all these things together that has a huge ORIC value. You hear about all sorts of other companies from the South Pacific or down further down into Southeast Asia that come out with these miracle fruits that they say fix all or whatnot. And when we have them tested ORIC value, they actually score pretty good considering normal fruits and vegetables and whatnot. But when you compare it to ours, it just blows them out of the stock. The number's like 3 or 4 or 5 times greater, and it tastes great.
Richard, what are some of the other products that you're excited about?
Well, we're coming out with a new magnesium product. The biggest problem that we've had magnesium is that we use such high quality ingredients that the magnesium is absorbed so quickly into your body. There's some adverse side effects that we had troubles with. I'll just say milk and magnesium, and I'll probably give you an idea what they are. And so we've come out with this new magnesium product that you won't have any adverse side effects. And women so traditionally are deficient in magnesium. In fact, it'll go into all sorts of different challenges women have with a deficiency of magnesium as far as their cycle goes. And so it helped us immensely develop a magnesium product that will help balance the chemistry of calcium as well as other key nutrients in your body without those adverse side effects.
Now, you call them adverse side effects. Isn't that another way to say bowel tolerance?
Well, bowel tolerance is a way, but beyond bowel tolerance, because bowel tolerance means bring you up there but not exceed it. And if you have a highly absorbed magnesium that you instantly take in high amounts, you'll go beyond bowel tolerance.
I see. Anything else that you'd like to share with us?
Well, you know, we're always coming out with new products, and what I recommend that everyone do is to get your name in on the email list, because then you'll get flyers about all the new products, whether it's right now when you and I are in this booth. One came out with a skin mask to help pull out wrinkles out of your face. You'll get these flyers as the products come out, because, you know, my goal with this conversation that you and I are doing is that people will be able to listen to this message for the next 5 years. And when they listen to it 5 years, they'll say, this product's been out forever now. And so we'll always be coming out with a few new products every single year that's exciting for us, especially in the areas of personal care and nutrition. And the way to get the most current information is to put your email address in, and then you'll get the flyers about the product the day they come out.
I know another website that people are starting to use more is the WallachFiles.com for additional information.
You know, there's so many different sites out there that are beneficial, and that one's just absolutely great. And one of the benefits of having an upline is that you can have conversations with them and they can lean you into the direction. And that's just a great site.
So websites. We talked about two, the WallachFiles.com, and there's also the LongevityLibrary.com that has additional information.
You know, what's nice about that one that you mentioned is that what you've done is that you've taken all the most current research that you can find in simple, readable format that the average person, not a chemistry degree like me, but the average person can read and understand. And you're pulling all this research where you can go in and understand what's going on in the most current science that's out there. And you guys are spending tons and tons of time and effort and just putting together a great project where people can go in just to read research about the benefits of vitamin A or calcium or selenium or lycopene or lutein or any of those great new ingredients. Well, they're not really new ingredients, but ingredients that we're just now starting to understand.
I know that with FDA regulations, we're not allowed to give a lot of third-party testimonials on a CD like this, but there are ways that they could hear about it from people firsthand.
You know, this person that gave you this to listen to Blake and I talk will have meetings. And if you go to these meetings and talk to the people that have been taking the products, you're going to see that 9 times out of 10, our products have changed their lives, and that you'll be able to talk to them on a one-on-one basis on how our products have changed them and which products they're even taking. And so I highly recommend that you get with the person that's giving you this CD and go with a meeting with him where you can meet people and see how these products have changed their lives.
We also have a number of conference calls that people could get on and talk with several of the people on our scientific advisory board as well, and hear some of these stories firsthand.
You know, one of the big differences with longevity is the quality of the individuals that we have on our scientific board, which we really haven't touched on that much. But it's headed up by Dr. Gerhard Schrauzer. He's a former professor emeritus at University of California down in San Diego, along with Dr. DeRue, who is a physician. And then we have experts all over the world that help us with the scientific blends and the products. And all the time we have them as guest speakers on our conference calls. I know of a minimum of 5 per week, depending on days or nights, that anyone can just dial in and listen to, and just get together with the person that gave you this tape, and they'll share some of those telephone numbers with you so you can listen into these scientists.
Speaking of Dr. Schrauzer, I know that he is among the 10 most quoted scientists in the entire world. He is like the scientist of scientists, officially recognized by the Nobel Prize Committee as an official nominator of the Nobel Prize.
And he actually has a grant that's given out, the Schrauzer grant in Germany, that's kind of like the Nobel Prize for research and science every year that's given out in his name. And you know, when you read his bio and his publication list of articles that he's publicized, you know, you and I are proud if we make 2 pages. And I'm not sure, but I think the last time I printed his out, it was 38 pages in length.
Oh, it was impressive.
It's something, and it's fun to read about. And his passion and the way that he got to know Dr. Wallach is that Dr. Wallach was doing research on cystic fibrosis and basically got his grant money taken away, and it was based on the trace element selenium. And Dr. Schrauzer was at the same time doing research on selenium and was having a whole bunch of scientists put together on a conference and a meeting in California. And he heard that Dr. Wallach was let go from his grant and basically called him up and says, "You have to fly out here. I'll pay for it because I want to hear your research on the trace mineral selenium and how it can help his life." And I want to say that was 25 or more years ago, and they've been friends ever since.
And they actually pulled his grant because he found out that cystic fibrosis was not genetic, and that flew in the face of all these other experts and the bias that they had had for years.
And it could be corrected by using the trace mineral selenium. And unfortunately for drug companies, you can't patent selenium.
But Dr. Schrauzer is definitely one of those advocates for nutritional information. He's always been at the forefront of teaching people, and recently has come out with an audio cassette actually called the Schrauzer Files on selenium.
He's absolutely an incredible mind, and he'll give you as much information as you're able to absorb. If he ever comes to your local area to speak to you, I highly recommend it. And the man's just a wealth of knowledge.
Now, I know the Scientific Advisory Board has many other disciplines. Besides just PhDs, we've got MDs, DCs.
We got DCs, NDs. Dr. Milan actually worked at the Harvard Medical School. She has several degrees. She's a licensed acupuncturist. She also has an MD from traditional medicines in China as well as modern medicine. So we also have a sports psychiatrist. We have a world-renowned cancer doctor that's on our scientific board. Just a wide variety of different fields to give different inputs, and it's a wonderful blend.
Does that help make the products more well-rounded?
I think so. I think that we're not saying that vitamins and minerals are the only way to go, that there's always alternative ways to improve the quality of our health. And by having a scientific board that can look at different products at different angles makes it overall a better product and a better company, because we're able to take the bigger picture of what's going on.
Richard, you've been involved intimately in sports nutrition. You've actually worked for the Portland Trail Blazers. And recently, Youngevity has an endorsement from one of the Portland Trail Blazers' star players, Theo Ratliff. Tell us a little bit about Theo.
Well, Theo is really a wonderful human being. You know, we look at these basketball players, and most of them are in their 20s and 30s. You know, they're really young people. And Theo, 5 or 6 years ago, was basically told by his team that he probably should retire because he missed so many games because of knee injury and ankle injury that it wasn't worth his contract. And so they were kind of pushing him in that direction. Well, he got Dr. Wallach's message, and during the off season, he started to take longevity products, and he noticed a real change. And that next year, he broke records. He was the top shot blocker in the NBA. Now, if you think about it, if you got bad knees and ankles, you're not going to be able to jump much. Well, he went from missing half the season to just missing one game, and then he became the shot block. He owns the record for blocking shots for 2 to 3 years in a row now. And when I talked to him just a few weeks ago, he told me he feels better now than he did when he was playing college ball. And he plans to play sports in the NBA for the next 5-6 years without a problem. So he came to us and he said, your products are great. My knees feel wonderful. You've changed my life, but I struggle with back-to-back games. I have trouble getting the energy to do that second game. We need to get a product for me that will help me recover after I work out in a hard NBA game when I'm playing 40 minutes or even more, depending on what type of a game it is. So we came out with Rebound FX, and what it does is it replaces the electrolytes that you lose excessively, as well as add the sugars, the good sugars, the sugars that you want, back in your body to help your body recover faster. And there's lots of people out there, right now it's during the summer, and there's people out there working in the yard, sweating and working hard, and Rebound for them is just as important as Rebound is for Theo after the basketball games and during the basketball games, to replace those nutrients you lose when you sweat excessively so you don't become deficient. Because think about this, folks. These 30-year-olds, they have knee surgeries in their off seasons and their bodies are falling apart and they're forced to retire. They're only 30 years old. They're still babies. It's absolutely scary. And if we want to live to be 100, we better learn from them. And that is that we need to take care of our body. We need to replace the nutrients when we use them. And that's the whole idea of Rebound FX, is to help the athlete when they're 10 as well as the athlete when they're 80.
And it works for people who just want more energy. People who come home from work, truck drivers late at night, a number of people who just need that extra energy.
You need that extra energy. Absolutely right. It's not like some of those other drinks that came out of Florida that we see out there that basically when you read the ingredients, it's water, sugar, sugar, and sugar. These actually have important nutrients. We have vitamin A, vitamin C, monosaccharides, polysaccharides, green tea, ginseng, all these key ingredients to help keep you going on a day-to-day basis and give you high energy.
I know the Rebound FX actually made it on NBA.com. There was an interesting article about Theo and using the Rebound and how his energy went up in the fourth quarter especially, and he was leading the NBA 8 block shots a game.
This last half season when he was at Portland, he was averaging 8 block shots a game, of which more and more were coming in the fourth quarter, because as all the players were getting tired, he was able to maintain that energy level and able to get up into the air to continue blocking the shots. So much so that more of the Blazers as well as other players in the NBA are starting to look at Theo going, what's happened to this guy over these years? What is he doing that I can do? And I know that Portland Trailblazers just got Nick Van Exel as well taking our products, and we hope that he has as powerful of a results.
Fantastic. Now, in using the products, it's not just the Rebound, as we were saying. Obviously, to rebuild his knees and ligaments and tendons and all of that, there was a number of other products he was taking, right?
Well, he basically was taking all the 90 nutrients that Dr. Wallach talks about, as well as essential fatty acids and the glucogel with the glucosamine sulfate and the collagen in there to rebuild his joints, and then taking large doses of our liquid calcium product, OsteoFX, to help maintain his bone structure and his bone joints. And so he was on a full regimen that Dr. Wallach designed especially for him, but is available to you and me as well.
If it's important for Theo as an NBA superstar, is it important for young athletes, people in college, maybe even people in high school or junior high?
You can start with junior high. You can start with Little League. When we start talking about athletes falling apart at 30, it doesn't happen between 29 and 30. It starts happening the second they start burning up more nutrients than they take in. And that literally starts at kindergarten. Mothers that have several children, they get worn out all the time too. They're missing those nutrients. So the game is that when you start burning more than what you take in, you start to become more deficient. And the more deficient you get, the faster you start breaking down. So I would say it starts with Little League. It starts with junior high. You should be on a serious program before you even get into high school sports, let alone college or professional.
Now, you've seen a difference in performance, not only with athletes, but also with animals as well. I believe one of your friends that runs the Iditarod was using the products with his dogs. Tell us about that.
One of the other benefits of essential fatty acid, it's very, very good for your skin. Well, we also found out that essential fatty acids is very, very good for dog paws. And if you think about running a 1,000-mile race up in Alaska on the gravel, on the snow, on every type of surface you can imagine, it's kind of hard on dogs' feet. And so what they typically have to wear is these boots. But what we found out is by giving dogs like essential fatty acids as well as other products like Arthrodex is that their pads stay soft enough that they don't get bruised, they stay healthy, they don't crack, and they're happier. And when your feet don't hurt, you run faster. And we're real excited with the research that we're doing with the dogs with Roger Roberts up in the Iditarod with Bill Carter and the success we're having even with them. Unfortunately, we'll spend more money on our pets than we do ourselves. That's a sad statement to make, but it's a true statement. And Arthrodex is just like Classic is good for the humans. Arthrodex is absolutely great for dogs. And, I've seen dogs change in just days after taking Arthrodex. I had a dog that was getting a little bit older, and we have a 2-story house, and he liked to come and sleep at the foot of our bed every night. And all of a sudden, I noticed that he wasn't coming upstairs anymore. And, you would think I'd be the first one that would be giving everybody in my family, let alone if it's a human or an animal, nutritional products, but I was cheating him. So we started to give him Arthrodex, and in less than a week, he was coming upstairs and sleeping at the foot of our bed again.
Well, Richard, I know that in addition to helping the manufacturing and the quality control in, you've gotten really excited about the opportunity. And you actually work as a distributor as well in your spare time, which I know you don't have much of. Tell us a little bit about your experience as a distributor here.
Well, I think anyone that's had a chance to be around Dr. Wallach for any period of time, the energy that man has and the passion and the love to pass the word out just becomes addictive. And the idea that now I have grandchildren, if I don't pass on that information, who am I cheating? I'm not cheating myself. I'm cheating future generations, and I just can't picture myself doing that. So by sharing Dr. Wallach's message and sharing the products, I'm able to improve the quality of people's lives that I may not even know today, but might be my best friend tomorrow. And that's so important. And it helps me survive and have a day-to-day business that I can be successful at. There's nothing wrong with making $1 when you're passing a message on that's going to change somebody's life. And you just get that feeling. And when you give someone a product that feels hopeless or that they want to cut their leg off because it feels so bad, and they take it for 3 months and they come up to you and they're jumping up and down in front of you like a yo-yo, and you go, "What's wrong?" And he says, "I couldn't do this 3 months ago. You've changed my life in ways that I can't even express to you." What makes me get out of the bed in the morning? I don't go to work. I go to help people, because work, when you say work, it's like, oh, you have to go to work. It's not that way in my life. It's a passion. And that's what Dr. Wallach gives you, is a passion.
Absolutely. In your experiences as a distributor, have you seen a lot of people change their financial health through this business?
Oh, absolutely. Some of my favorite people have jobs that, JOB jobs that they hate going to, and they say, "Oh, I'm going to retire in 10 years and I'll never have to work again." And I says, "Well, there's this other opportunity. And these products you just told me yesterday, you feel so much better. If you just share the message and look at this as a business aspect, you might be able to quit your job 1, 2, or 3, or 4, or 5, or 9 years sooner than you plan, and you don't mind going to work." And I have a friend of mine, Bernie Owens, and that's exactly what happened, is that after just a couple of years, he was making more money than he had working at his other job for 25 plus years.
And helping people along the way.
And changing people's lives. I don't know how I can express the passion through a microphone. Changing people's lives is, I help you by helping you cross the street so you don't get run over, but changing your life so that it's never the same again, that's a powerful tool that you have in your hand. And if it's changed your life, Blake, and you don't share it, who are you really cheating?
Any other stories that you'd like to share with us?
Oh, there's hundreds and hundreds of testimonies out there from people that our products have changed their lives. Anywhere from arthritis, which is really the cornerstone of Dr. Wallach's products, to people that have suffered from all sorts of various diseases. But the thing that I want to emphasize is that it all stems back to the quality of the products and the care that Dr. Wallach puts together in the formulations. That products just change lives, and that's what our goal is, to share the message and to change lives.
I noticed that as a distributor myself, that, there's a lot of companies out there with good products where you hear some good stories. but it seems like the level of products, the quality is so high that these stories, these almost miracle type stories, are more the rule than the exception.
Absolutely. I don't think anyone could, if they just get on our basic 90 nutrients, won't see an improvement in the quality of their lives within 90 days. Now that's a pretty bold statement out there, but I out of 100 people, I'll be safe to say 99 and a half will see a change in the way they feel within 3 months of taking our products. Now, it might take them 20 years to feel bad, but just 3 months to feel better.
Is there any final message you'd like to leave with our listeners today?
Well, I can tell you this, with Dr. Wallach and his passion and his message, longevity is going to be there today, tomorrow, and 100 years from now. And the quality of the product is going to be here today, tomorrow, and 100 years from now. And I can guarantee that. And with Steve Wallach as the president of the company, I can guarantee financially that you're going to get paid today, tomorrow, and 100 years from now, because he's been involved in companies that he's gotten cheated on his commission checks, and he does not like that. And so it's probably going to be one of the most stable multi-level marketing companies that you're going to see for generations to come. And that's why I like being involved with this company.
Thank you very much.